When my coworkers projected my side hustle on the office TV, their laughter felt like a public flaying. I swore in that moment their mockery would fuel a rise they couldn't comprehend. Samantha's voice cut through the morning break room chatter like a shard of glass. "Hey everyone, gather round. You have to see this, Mia's running a little asterisk candle business." My blood ran cold. I looked up from my coffee to see my own Instagram feed, at Imberlite Co., displayed on the massive wall-mounted TV. My carefully curated photos of amber vessels and handwritten notes were now a slideshow for their ridicule. "Oh, well, look, she thinks she's an entrepreneur," Mark from accounting chimed in, snickering. Samantha, the ringleader of our department's toxicity, picked up one of the sample candles I'd brought for a supportive friend. She made a show of sniffing it with an exaggerated, disgusted face before tossing it into the trash bin, where it landed with a dull thud amidst used coffee grounds and crumpled paper. "Maybe you should focus on your real job, Mia. This is just sad." The collective laughter was a physical wave, hot and suffocating. I felt every pair of eyes on me, my face burning with a humiliation so complete it stole my breath. I didn't cry. I didn't run. I just stood there, my fists clenched at my sides, and whispered a vow so quiet only I could hear it. "You'll remember this laugh. Every single one of you." Minnie Hook at 1-0-0. But that's when karma stepped in, quietly, and it began with the ember of fury now glowing in my chest. My coworkers mocked my side hustle, called it a pathetic hobby, and threw my passion in the literal trash. They thought they were putting me in my place, a lowly marketing assistant who should know her role. What they didn't know was that they were striking the match that would light my fuse. That day in the break room broke something in me, the last fragile thread of my need for their approval, my desire to fit into their corporate, soulless box. But in its place, it built something new, something formidable, a resolve forged in the fire of public shame. I walked out of that room with my dignity in shards at my feet, but with a silent, raging inferno ignited in my soul that would burn for years to come. This wasn't just about candles anymore. It was about sovereignty. It was about building something they could never touch, never mock, and never understand. Their laughter was the cost of my admission to a new life, and I was determined to make it the best investment I'd ever made. The Candle Girl was a persona they created to feel superior. The woman who would rise from its ashes would be someone they'd have no choice but to look up to. My name is Mia Rowan. By title, I am a 28-year-old marketing assistant, a cog in a vast corporate machine, paid to make other people's visions look good. But by design, I am a dreamer, a creator, an alchemist of atmosphere and emotion. I don't just make candles, I craft vessels of warmth and hope, pouring my own quiet ambition into blends of cedarwood and sage, sea salt and orchid. Each one is a tiny, flickering rebellion against a life of fluorescent lights and sterile spreadsheets. They saw a cute side hustle, a frivolous distraction from the serious business of climbing a corporate ladder. I saw my way out. I saw freedom. In the delicate dance of measuring wax and essential oils, I found a clarity I never felt in a boardroom. In the glow of a newly poured candle setting, I saw my future, not dictated by a paycheck or a performance review, but built by my own two hands. My apartment wasn't just a home. It was a laboratory of ambition, filled with the scent of possibilities they were too cynical to smell. They thought my small desk in the corner was my entire world. They had no idea it was just the observation deck for a universe I was building in the quiet hours of the night, a universe where I was the undisputed CEO. In the days and weeks that followed the break room incident, I became a ghost at the office. I spoke only when necessary, my replies curt and professional. I ate lunch at my desk, headphones on, creating a fortress of silence around me. Every snide comment, every whispered, "Hey, Candle Girl," every patronizing smile from Samantha was no longer a wound. It was another match struck, another log thrown onto the motivational fire blazing inside me. I stopped seeing my bi-weekly paycheck as compensation for my time. I saw it as seed capital. Every dollar I earned at that desk, under their condescending gazes, was immediately funneled back into Imberlite Co. I bought higher quality wax, invested in elegant, minimalist packaging, and secured a coveted domain name. My corporate job became my venture capital firm, albeit an unwitting one. The humiliation that once felt like a brand now felt like a badge of honor, a a constant reminder of my mission. I was a spy behind enemy lines, and my silence was my greatest weapon. They thought I was defeated, shrinking under the weight of their judgment. In reality, I was growing, expanding in the space they couldn't see, my roots digging deep into the fertile soil of their disbelief, preparing for a harvest they would never see coming. The notification came through at 11:37 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was up to my elbows in warm soy wax, my kitchen smelling strongly of a new test blend, bergamot and black tea. My phone, propped against a jar of wooden wicks, lit up with the distinct cha-ching sound I'd assigned to my Etsy store. An order. Not from my mom or my best friend, but from a complete stranger. A woman in Colorado had just purchased the Mountain Sunrise candle for $60, including shipping. I read the confirmation email 3 times, my heart hammering against my ribs. My hands, sticky with wax, began to tremble. I slid down the cabinet onto my kitchen floor, the cool linoleum a shock against my skin. And then I cried. But these weren't tears of sadness or frustration. They were tears of pure, unadulterated validation. They were the physical release of months of doubt and fear. In that moment, it didn't matter that Samantha had thrown my candle in the trash. It didn't matter that my coworkers saw me as a joke. Someone, somewhere, believed in me. Someone had exchanged their hard-earned money for a piece of my dream. That $60 was worth more than my weekly paycheck. It was a vote of confidence from the universe, a silent partner saying, "Keep going." It was the proof I needed that my passion had purpose beyond that office's toxic walls. Fueled by that first, magical sale, something shifted. The trickle of orders became a steady stream, and then, to my stunned disbelief, a rushing river. My quiet Etsy shop was no longer a hidden secret. It was a destination. Weekends blurred into a beautiful, exhausting chaos of melting, pouring, curring, and packaging. My small apartment transformed from a living space into a full-scale, fragrant production facility. Jars lined every available surface: the kitchen counters, the coffee table, even the top of my television. My social life dwindled to nothing, but I didn't care. Every ding was a symphony. Every packed box was a tiny miracle. Burnout was a constant threat, a shadow that loomed at 3 a.m. when I was still labeling boxes, my back aching and my eyes gritty with fatigue. But the thrill of creation, the addictive high of building something that was truly mine asterisk, was a more potent drug than sleep. I was no longer just Mia, the marketing assistant. I was Mia, the creator, the shipper, the customer service representative, the CEO. This wasn't a side hustle anymore. It was a second life, one that was quickly becoming more real, more rewarding, and more me than the one I lived from 9 to 5. The final, definitive break came on a random Tuesday morning. I had brought in a new prototype, a calming lavender and chamomile blend, hopping to get a second opinion from the one kind colleague I trusted. I left it on my desk while I went to grab a printout. When I returned, Samantha was standing there, holding the jar. Our eyes met. A slow, cruel smile spread across her face. Without a word, she walked over to the break room sink, unscrewed the lid, and dumped the entire still soft candle into the drain. The thick wax oozed over the metal, clogging it instantly. "Focus on your real job, Mia," she sneered, wiping her hands on a paper towel as if she'd touched something contaminated. "This craft fair nonsense is a distraction for the whole team." Everyone nearby watched, but no one said a word. They were all complicit in their silence. I didn't respond. I didn't clean up the mess. I just looked at her, and in that moment, every ounce of hurt, every moment of shame, crystallized into a cold, hard diamond of determination. The fire in my soul didn't rage. It focused into a laser beam. Mini hook at 3:00. Little did she know, as she smirked in her petty victory, that everything in my world and soon in hers was about to change forever. Standing there, watching my wasted creation congeal in the office sink, I had an epiphany. I was a marketer. It was my job to build narratives and sell products for a faceless corporation. Why wasn't I doing that for myself? That night, I launched Operation Emberlight. I stopped thinking like a hobbyist and started strategizing like a CEO. I used my skills to build a sophisticated website, moving beyond Etsy. I ran targeted social media ads, not just hopeful posts. I crafted a brand story around mindfulness and sustainable luxury, positioning my candles not as trinkets, but as essential tools for self-care in a chaotic world. I cold emailed boutique hotels and high-end gift shops, offering them wholesale partnerships. I studied SEO until my eyes crossed, ensuring my site would be found by the right people. Within 3 months, Imberlite Co. was no longer just a side hustle. It was a recognized, respected boutique brand in the online wellness space. The quality was always there, but now it was wrapped in a narrative so compelling it was impossible to ignore. I was using their own corporate weapons, marketing, branding, strategy, to build my escape route right under their noses. The Candle Girl was dead. Long live the founder. The tipping point arrived not with a whisper, but with a digital tsunami. A well-known wellness influencer, someone I'd admired from afar for years, placed a large custom order for a content creation shoot. I poured my soul into that collection, creating unique scents inspired by her brand. A week later, she posted a stunning, professionally lit video of my candles arranged on a minimalist shelf, their flames dancing, the caption gushing about the life-changing quality and divine aroma. She tagged at Imberlite Co. Her follower count, 2.3 million. My phone exploded. The website traffic was so immense it crashed my basic hosting plan. The order notifications came in so fast the cha-ching sound became a continuous, exhilarating tone. I sold out of my entire inventory in 6 hours. The next day at the office, the air was different. Whispers followed me to the coffee machine, but they weren't mocking. They were hushed, bewildered. "Did you see Mia's stuff online?" I heard someone murmur, "It's everywhere." Samantha was conspicuously quiet, her eyes avoiding mine. The narrative had flipped overnight. The joke was no longer on me. The explosion of success came with a brutal cost: time. My life became a meticulously managed, exhausting double shift. From 9 to 5, I was the dutiful marketing assistant, running reports and scheduling social media posts for the company, all while my own brand was thriving in the background. The moment the clock hit 5, my second job began. I'd rush home, change into my wax-stained clothes, and transform my kitchen into a factory floor. I'd pour candles until 2 a.m., the scent of success literally permeating the air. Sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. Burnout wasn't just flirting with me. It was moving in, unpacking its bags in my spare room. My social life was non-existent. My friends worried about me. But the thrill of building my empire was a more powerful stimulant than any amount of caffeine or rest. Every finished candle, every packed order, every 5-star review was a hit of pure adrenaline. Success, I learned, wasn't a destination you arrived at. It was a demanding, relentless partner that required every ounce of your being, and I was willing to give it. Sitting at my corporate desk, pretending to analyze a tedious spreadsheet, I secretly refreshed the page on my phone. A prominent eco-lifestyle blog, one I'd submitted my story to months ago, had just published a feature. Imberlite Co., the candle brand illuminating the meaning of mindful living. The article was glowing, praising my craftsmanship, my branding, and my authentic story. I watched the view counter climb in real time, my heart doing a silent, joyful tap dance. This wasn't just press, it was legitimacy. It was a third-party validation that screamed to the world that I was not a joke. Later that afternoon, as that very article was likely being shared by my coworkers, my personal email dinged. It was from the curator of a high-end local boutique I had dreamed of being in since I started. The subject line, "Retail Contract Inquiry." They wanted to carry my entire line. I closed the email, looked around the open plan office, at the heads bent over their computers, and allowed myself a small, secret smile. I was winning. And the best part was, most of them were still completely oblivious, still seeing me as the quiet girl in the corner, not the business owner whose brand was now being featured in the very publications our company aspired to be in. Scaling up meant I needed a professional packaging supplier, someone who could provide the elegant, custom-printed boxes my brand now demanded. After weeks of pitching my vision over emails and calls, a major supplier finally agreed to a meeting. "We're impressed with your growth, Ms. Rowan," the account manager said, "but we have a strict vetting process. We'll be sending a representative to your facility to assess quality control before we sign any contract." My heart sank. My facility was my 600-square-foot apartment. Panic set in. The day of the meeting, I cleaned frantically, trying to make my living room look like a chic, organized studio. The doorbell rang. I opened it, My professional smile plastered on my face, and my blood ran cold. Standing there was a woman I recognized instantly, Sarah, the personal assistant to our company's CEO, Mr. Aldrich. She was holding a tablet and looked just as shocked to see me. "Mia," she said, her eyes wide, taking in the jars of wax, the shelves of supplies, the scent of sandalwood that filled the air. "You're in Burlight." The corporate world and my secret world had just violently collided at my front door. The following Monday, an official calendar invite popped up on my screen. The title was chillingly vague: Company Partnership Review Q4 Initiative. The location was the main executive boardroom. My name was listed under required attendees. My stomach twisted into a knot. This was it. Sarah had reported back. They knew. This wasn't a promotion meeting. This was a disciplinary hearing. They were going to fire me for conflict of interest. I imagined Samantha's smug face as security escorted me out. For a full minute, I hovered my cursor over the decline button, my finger trembling. I could quit before they could fire me. I could walk away with what was left of my dignity. But then I remembered the candle in the sink. I remembered the laughter. A cold calm settled over me. This wasn't an ending. This was a summoning. Mini hook at 7:00. And that's when the twist hit, a realization that this wasn't a threat, but the stage for my greatest victory. Karma had finished warming up, and it was ready for its grand entrance. I walked into the boardroom, my knees weak. The long mahogany table was surrounded by the entire senior leadership team, and there, smirking beside the head of marketing, was Samantha. She shot me a look that was equal parts confusion and contempt. What was *I doing here? Mr. Aldrich, the CEO, stood at the head of the table. "Team, thank you for gathering," he began, his voice commanding and warm. "Today is an exciting day. We're here to announce a groundbreaking new partnership for our corporate gifting and client outreach programs. We've been seeking a brand that embodies modern luxury, sustainability, and authentic storytelling." He clicked a button, and the screen behind him lit up. My own branding, the elegant minimalist logo I'd designed myself, filled the massive screen. "I'm thrilled to introduce our new partner," Mr. Aldrich continued, beaming. "In Burlight Co., the name hung in the air." I stopped breathing. Samantha's smirk vanished, replaced by pure, unadulterated confusion. She looked from the screen to me and back again. The room was utterly silent, a vacuum of sound. Then Mr. Aldrich delivered the final, breathtaking blow. "And I'd like to personally thank the founder and creative director, who also happens to be one of our own very talented marketers, Mia Rowan." For a moment, there was no sound at all. You could have heard a pin drop on the plush boardroom carpet. The air was thick with stunned disbelief. Someone at the far end of the table dropped a pen, and the clatter was as loud as a gunshot. Another person coughed, a nervous, strangled sound. All eyes were locked on me. I saw the journey of comprehension on their faces, from confusion to dawning realization to outright shock. Samantha was pale, her mouth slightly agape. She looked like she'd been physically struck. The senior managers, people who had never acknowledged my existence beyond a curt nod in the hallway, were staring at me with a new, intense curiosity. The Candle Girl narrative, the story they had all collectively built and reinforced, was shattering into a million pieces right before their eyes. The silence wasn't just awkward, it was profound. It was the sound of a paradigm shifting, of a hierarchy being upended. In that absolute quiet, my own nervousness vanished, replaced by a surge of power so potent it was dizzying. I didn't need to say a word. My presence in that room, my name linked to the brand on the screen, was the only statement that needed to be made. The silence broke into a flurry of muted whispers and shifting chairs. Samantha was the first to find her voice, though it was a weak, thin imitation of her usual condescending tone. "Wait," she stammered, pointing a trembling finger between me and the screen. You own Emberlight, the Emberlight that's all over Instagram." All heads swiveled back to me, awaiting my answer. I met her gaze directly, my posture relaxed, a calm smile touching my lips. The years of pent-up frustration had evaporated, leaving behind a cool, clear confidence. "Yes, Samantha," I said, my voice even and carrying clearly in the hushed room. "I do. The Candle Girl owns the company." The title she had used to belittle me for months was now my crown, and I wielded it with grace. The shock on her face was the most satisfying thing I had ever seen. It was the look of someone whose entire worldview had just been proven catastrophically wrong. The other managers began to murmur congratulations, their voices laced with a newfound, almost deferential respect. The predator had become the partner. Mr. Aldrich, clearly enjoying the dramatic reveal, stepped forward again, commanding the room's attention. Mia's vision for Emberlight aligns perfectly with our company's new sustainability goals and our desire to connect with clients on a more authentic, human level, he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. She saw a gap in the market not with a spreadsheet, but with passion. She took a simple idea and, through sheer determination and remarkable skill, turned it into a profitable, respected brand, all while excelling in her duties here. He looked directly at me, his expression one of immense pride. That is the kind of entrepreneurial spirit and entrepreneurial drive we strive to foster. It's something we could all learn from. His praise wasn't just a personal victory, it was a corporate canonization. He had officially anointed my side hustle as not just valid, but aspirational. In one speech, he had vaporized every snide comment, every laugh, every moment of doubt. Samantha looked down at her notebook, her face flushed with a mixture of humiliation and rage. The CEO had just publicly endorsed the very thing she had thrown in the trash, and in doing so, had completely invalidated her petty cruelty. The energy in the office transformed overnight. Where there were once whispers of mockery, there were now whispers of awe. My inbox, once only filled with task assignments, was now flooded with emails from colleagues I barely knew. So inspired by your story. We should collaborate on a campaign. Let's grab coffee and pick your brain. The hypocrisy was staggering, but I felt no anger. I felt a profound sense of closure. Their sudden, effusive praise was just noise. I hadn't done this for their validation. I hadn't built my company for revenge. I had built it for freedom, for myself. The partnership was merely a business deal, a strategic move for both my company and my former employer. I responded to the emails with polite, professional detachment. I wasn't here to be their friend or their inspiration. I was here as a business owner, a vendor. The goal was never to make them like me. The goal was to make their opinion irrelevant. And as I discussed wholesale pricing and delivery timelines with my former managers, I knew with absolute certainty that I had achieved it. Their world was now a client in my world. The most brazen attempt came from Samantha herself. She sidled up to my desk, my same small, humble desk, a few days later wearing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mia, wow, what a whirlwind," she gushed, her voice dripping with false warmth. "We have to celebrate this properly. The whole team should take you out to dinner. My treat at Carbone." It was a transparent attempt to save face, to publicly align herself with my success and rewrite history. The same woman who had dumped my candle in the sink was now trying to break bread with me at an expensive restaurant. I looked up from my computer, my expression neutral. "Thank you for the offer, Samantha," I said, my voice even and polite. "But I'm afraid I'm busy. I'm hosting my own celebration tonight." I paused, letting the moment hang, with people who never laughed at my dreams. I saw the flicker of shock and fury in her eyes before she could mask it. She nodded stiffly, muttered, "Of course," and retreated. The boundary was drawn, not with anger, but with a simple, unassailable truth. I had moved on, and I was taking my success to a table where she would never have a seat. A week later, the business section of the city's premier newspaper ran the story. The headline was a work of art. From office mockery to corporate partner, local entrepreneur Mia Rowan seals $3.02 deal with former employer. It detailed my journey, the break room humiliation, the silent hustle, the influencer boom, and the stunning partnership reveal. A professional photo of me, standing confidently in my now proper studio space, accompanied the piece. The article went viral within our industry. LinkedIn notifications blew up my phone. The comments section was a chorus of support and schadenfreude. "This is the best revenge story I've ever read. Karma is a CEO. This is why you should never mock the quiet one in the office." My story was no longer mine alone. It had become a public parable about resilience and the price of underestimation. Reading the comments, I didn't feel a vengeful thrill. Instead, I felt a deep, humbling sense of responsibility. My pain had been transformed into a source of motivation for others. My private victory had become a public lesson, and that was a power far greater than any petty payback. Later that evening, as I was winding down, my phone lit up with a direct message on Instagram. It was from Samantha. No GIF, no emoji, just a block of stark text. I saw the article. I guess I really underestimated you. I'm sorry. The apology was there, but it felt hollow, extracted by the sheer, unignorable force of my success rather than genuine remorse. It was an admission of a miscalculation, not an understanding of her cruelty. I stared at the message for a long time. I thought about ignoring it. I thought about writing a lengthy paragraph about respect and kindness. But in the end, I settled on the truest response I could muster. My fingers typed out the reply. You didn't underestimate me, Samantha. You just never looked close enough to see what was really there. I hit send. It wasn't forgiveness, and it wasn't an acceptance of her apology. It was simply the final, factual word on our entire relationship. She had judged the book by its cover, and now she had to live with the knowledge that she'd missed a bestseller. The annual end-of-year gala was always a spectacle of forced merriment and corporate posturing. This year, I attended not as a low-level employee, but as an honored guest and valued partner. I wore a dress I'd bought with my own company's profits. I circulated through the crowd, exchanging pleasantries with executives who now called me Mia instead of hey, you. When Mr. Aldrich took the microphone for his traditional speech, he spoke of innovation and risk-taking. Then he raised his glass. And I'd like to make a special toast, he announced, his eyes scanning the room until they found me. To the dreamers in this room, to the ones who work in silence, who turn skepticism into strategy and laughter into legacy. It was a direct, unmistakable reference. A wave of applause rippled through the ballroom. My eyes, almost involuntarily, found Samantha's across the crowded room. She was standing with her usual clique, a half-empty glass in her hand. Our gazes locked for a single, electric moment. Then, she quickly, pointedly, looked away, focusing intently on a piece of art on the wall as if it were the most fascinating thing she'd ever seen. She couldn't even bear to watch me be celebrated. A month after the party, the partnership was in full swing. I made one final trip to my old office to deliver the first major shipment of corporate gift sets. I walked through the familiar glass doors, but this time I wasn't an employee. I was a vendor. I nodded at the receptionist, who gave me a wide, knowing smile. The lobby, once a sterile space of corporate blandness, now featured a beautiful, curated display on the central table. It was filled with my candles. The Emberlight Co. logo was displayed prominently for every client and visitor to see. I stopped for a moment, looking at my creations, my passion, sitting in the heart of the place that had once made me feel so small. A sense of peace, warm and complete, washed over me. I smiled, a private, personal smile, and whispered to myself, full circle. Then I turned and walked out, back to my studio, back to my future, leaving my past behind me, beautifully illuminated by the very flames they had tried to extinguish. Months into the partnership, I was invited back to the office to speak to a group of summer interns about entrepreneurship. After my talk, a young woman with bright, eager eyes approached me, clutching her notebook to her chest. Ms. Rowan, she said, her voice full of nervous energy. I just wanted to say your story is the reason I started my own side hustle. I make custom jewelry. I was so scared of what people here would think, but after hearing you speak, I realized it's okay to have a dream that doesn't fit in a cubicle. She looked at me with pure, unvarnished admiration. In that moment, any lingering residue of bitterness from the break room, from the sink, from all of it, vanished completely. This was the point. My journey wasn't just about my own success or revenge. It was about creating a blueprint for others. It was about showing the next quiet dreamer that it was possible. I looked at her, this brave young woman, and felt a surge of emotion so strong it brought tears to my eyes. Thank you for telling me that, I said, my voice thick. And don't you ever stop. That single conversation, that passing of the torch, was better than any revenge. It was a legacy. Now, standing in my bright, spacious studio, surrounded by the hum of a real business, I poured a new candle, a limited edition scent called Phoenix Rise. The warm wax flowed smoothly, carrying the scent of smoky amber and crisp applewood. My mind drifted back to that day in the break room, to the feeling of my dream being held up for public ridicule before being tossed away like garbage. They had tried to throw my passion in the trash, to snuff it out with their laughter and condescension. But they failed. They didn't understand that you can't kill an ember with mockery, you only give it more air. I had taken that discarded, smothered dream and I had not just retrieved it. I had lit it. I had nurtured its flame through late nights and doubt, through setbacks and exhaustion. I had fed it with my resilience and my talent, and that single, defiant flame had grown and multiplied and spread until it became an empire. It warmed homes, it lit rooms, and now it even illuminated the lobby of the very place that once tried to darken it. The flame never dies. It just waits for the right person to believe in it enough to let it burn. Revenge doesn't always burn. Sometimes it glows. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life karma stories. Ever had someone laugh at your dream and live to regret it? Tell us below in the comment box.